Welcome, everybody, to Postgame Takeaways with Inside ND Sports. I'm Tyler James, back in my apartment in Mishawaka. He's the one and only Eric Hansen. We cover Notre Dame football, recruiting, and more for InsideNDSports.com on the Rivals Network. And we're here to share our postgame takeaways from Notre Dame's 45-7 Senior Day victory over Wake Forest. Eric, there were some senior standouts and some young guys who made some plays too today. Where do you want to start with your postgame takeaways?
The girl that threw the 30-yard pass with the marshmallow that landed in Sam Hartman's hot chocolate. I can't believe they had hot chocolate on the sideline, let alone a young lady from the stands plopping a marshmallow from 30 yards away. I want to start with Sam Hartman in the offense a little bit here because it had been such the focus during the bye week and post-Clemson. And they did put up some pretty good numbers today. And one of the reasons they did was because Sam Hartman looked more like the Sam Hartman we saw in the very early part of the season and that we had heard so much about at Wake Forest. But also, as you mentioned, kind of a youth brigade. You had 3 freshman receivers combined for 15 receptions and over 200 yards today, a couple touchdowns. And then Eli Raridan, who might as well be a freshman, given all the time he missed last year and this year with an ACL, having his first 3 catches of his career, a 19-yard touchdown early in the second half that was really important in terms of Notre Dame turning this from kind of a antsy game into a blowout. And so, I mean, big picture, I don't think it told us anything about the future, but I still think it's a good sign for Notre Dame as it tries to finish out the season strong that these receivers were part of Sam Hartman's resurgence.
Yeah, I think those receivers can say something about what Notre Dame has moving forward, big picture. I think even with Notre Dame's struggles at receiver this season, there's still especially with the young guys, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, they're freshmen. You can't expect them to be carrying the offense. So I like what Rico Flores has done this season, but he has struggled at times when he's had to take on such a bigger role. Jaden Greathouse has been basically absent from the offense in terms of a pass catching role. Tonight was his first catch since the Ohio State game. That's how long it's been since Jaden Greathouse had caught a pass, which seems crazy considering the way he came onto the scene as a freshman earlier in the season. So to have those guys have such good games, even Tobias Merriweather getting in there with a 35-yard touchdown catch, I think those are all good things. Sam Hartman started slow. I think he was maybe 2 of 7 to start the game, finishes 21 of 29 for 277 yards and 4 touchdowns. So a big day for him on the stat sheet, even if the first half was a little bit shaky and the offense took a while to find his footing.
Yeah, and I was just looking up here because I keep track of this. Since the 2010 season is kind of where my line of demarcation with this. Rico Flores now has the most catches of a freshman in that time frame. He passed Kevin Stefferson's 25, Lorenzo Styles 24, and TJ Jones 23. Previously, those were the only guys that even had gotten into double digits, and now he has the most receptions of any freshman since at least 2010, which is quite an accomplishment.
And he became the first 100-yard receiver for Notre Dame at the wide receiver position since the Fiesta Bowl, which was Marcus Freeman's first game as a head coach at Notre Dame, which seems kind of crazy. Oddly enough, Notre Dame had 2 100-yard receivers in that game with Lorenzo Styles and Kevin Austin Jr.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of cool elements to this game, sentimental elements for the seniors, but it did remind you, it was another reminder kind of when you saw how good the defense played. This was the best showing they've had against a Power 5 defense since last senior day in the Snow Globe game, where they held Boston College to 176. They held Wake to 232. Mm-hmm. They held them under 100 yards passing. They forced a turnover, got 3 sacks. And it just still reminds you that if there weren't the offensive hiccups in the middle of the season, would we be talking about Notre Dame as a possible playoff team?
Yeah. I wanted to highlight the passing defense to hold a an offense to 81 yards passing from its starting quarterback, who attempted 20 passes. It's not like Wake Forest is running the triple option out there.
Right.
It's pretty incredible, and speaks to how good Notre Dame's passing defense has been all year. They entered the week ranked third in pass efficiency defense. They don't give up a lot of big plays. The longest completion today was actually a wide receiver pass of 17 yards. So you have to be pretty creative to fool Notre Dame's secondary at this point, and Wake Forest did there, and a little bit on that drive.
That whole scoring drive was kind of gadgety.
Yeah. Wake Forest was pulling from deep in the playbook to try to figure out how to get something going, because the first couple of drives weren't very pretty, and then.
Did you see the play where the offensive linemen all flopped on the ground?
I think that was the play where the wide receiver just sort of ended up running. It looked like it was going to be the second wide receiver pass. It was, I think it was so like it looked like a screen to the receiver, and then he was going to back up and I think maybe throw it back to the quarterback. So I think the linemen were then going to get back up and then start blocking. So yeah, they were trying anything they could, and then
I had never seen anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you'll do that to like try to take guys' legs out to get them get a quick pass off, but that was an interesting play design. Maybe Notre Dame found a trick or two from Wake Forest's offense today that it could run later in the season, because Notre Dame's offense was pretty typical, except for I thought one of my takeaways, and maybe it's just because it's something I've been fascinated with in covering Notre Dame's offensive struggles, is that play action and RPO seem to be a bigger part of today's game than it has been in recent weeks. I think it paid off as well. The Eli Raridan touchdown pass was on a play action fake, and that's exactly what you can do. It's hard to have guys to stay glued to tight ends in the box when there's a play action fake to start the play, and Sam Hartman threw a beautiful pass, and Eli Raridan made a nice catch. And at least from my perspective, I think those are the kind of things that Notre Dame needs to do in these last couple of games with Sam Hartman on Notre Dame's team.
Yeah, almost kind of lost in all that was Audric Estime. Went over 100 yards today. He was in the game late to do it, and he went over 1,000 yards. He actually went over 1,100. He's at 1,103 for the season, which is the 14th most in Notre Dame history. If he played in both of the final two games, Stanford and the bowl game, and had 100 yards, probably could get up to around 3. He would have to have some monster games to break the school record, which since 1979 has been 1437 by Vegas Ferguson. That record's been there a long time. But he had a good game today. And I should point out, I thought I try to watch them intermittently. Ashton Craig and Billy Schrauth, I thought, did a decent job from, again, selective viewing. They didn't give up any sacks. Notre Dame ran the ball pretty well, and that was the first start for both of those guys.
Yeah, and there weren't many snap issues from Ashton Craig either. I think I remember seeing one for sure that was like low, but still Sam Hartman was able to handle it. And that's obviously something you worry about for a guy that hasn't played a lot of center and running shotgun. So that's a good sign. But yeah, I thought those two looked good together. And I think they both have bright futures at Notre Dame. It'll be fascinating to see where those guys end up next season and how that offensive line shakes out. And then I also, before we get off here tonight, I wanted to give a shout out to the special teams who had another nice game. And not just because they hit the over in punt return yardage for Eric on our Place Your Bets, but the blocked field goal by Javonte Jean-Baptiste, that ended up being a 6-point swing for Notre Dame, and that you keep 3 points off the board for Wake Forest, and then Notre Dame goes down and kicks a field goal of its own before the end of the half, although if operated more smoothly, maybe Notre Dame scores a touchdown rather than a field goal there. And then opening the second half pretty soon after that with an onside kick that DJ Brown recovers, nicely executed by him and Spencer Strader. Unfortunately for Notre Dame, the offense just went out there and it went 3 and out, so didn't really get to take advantage of that. But some good work there by special teams coordinator Marty Biagi's units that I wanted to highlight as something that I feel like the second half of the season we've started to see the special teams come through with some big plays. They still have had hiccups here or there, but I think the big plays that we weren't seeing in the first half of the season and that we saw so much last year under Brian Mason have really started to show up with those units.
The quote of the night for me was from Rico Flores. He was talking about people that inspired him and some people with tough backgrounds. And you can tell because he's fearless, but he said something to the effect that I wasn't brought up sweet.
he also said Marcus Freeman reminded him of his mom because of the way that he was going to harp on him about fumbling, and that's something he's used to. He knows that he's going to get harped on, so that was a pretty funny comment as well, I thought.
So, I mean, they've got Stanford. Stanford lost at home tonight to Cal 27-15. They're 3-8, hosting Notre Dame on maybe the last Pac-12 network game ever. Next Saturday at 7 Eastern time. So maybe what do you need to see from this team in that Stanford game? I mean, other than a lopsided game, I mean, is there something specific that you feel like you need to see before the bowl game?
I'd like to see continued progression with the offense. I mean, for as good as it ended up being in the sum tonight, Notre Dame's offense took a while to sort of find its footing, like I mentioned, and I'd like to see maybe that.
The first drive was 3 yards and 46 seconds, and then a 27-yard punt.
And then, so start to finish, let's see an offense that is clicking on all cylinders. Let's see an offense that is playing complementary to itself in terms of run and pass, that can use the different weapons that it has here. And continue to see those guys sort of peaking late in the season rather than just sort of getting by against a Stanford defense that hasn't been very good throughout the season. So I think this is another opportunity to see the development of these players on Notre Dame's offense and continue to try to put a good ending to Sam Hartman's Notre Dame career. What about you?
Yeah, I would say the offensive consistency. I like. I mean, I'm sure they hope they get Jaden Thomas back full go, but at this point, those freshman wide receivers are kind of providing something for everybody. The people that want to see them playing for 2024, they're getting what they want. The people that want to see them finish strong and get to 10 wins in 2023, they're kind of getting what they want. I want to see the offensive line look like a Joe Moore Award finalist too. I thought, again, I need to watch them a little bit more closely, maybe in the rewatch or whatever. But from the naked eye today, against a Wake Forest defense that gets a lot of penetration and stuff, I thought they did pretty well. It's going to be harder to tell next week because Stanford is so god awful on defense. I mean, they were 128th out of 130, and then you go into the bowl game and. I mean, I hope it's LSU, but even if it's Tennessee in the ReliaQuest Bowl, I think that gives Notre Dame a chance to end on a good note and going into the offseason with good things to talk about to the recruits.
Yep, and in a couple of weeks we'll know where Notre Dame's headed in the postseason, and that will be at least for me, I have my fingers crossed on that ReliaQuest Bowl and SEC opponent. In a January 1st date. I think that's the most ideal situation for me. I think it's the most ideal situation for Notre Dame and sort of getting another win on its resume that make you feel good about rather than just sort of, okay, they beat someone like Iowa State in the Camping World Bowl or something like that. So
I do want to give out a shout out between Steve Angeli and the girl in the stands. They were 4 for 4 with 1 touchdown and 1 hot chocolate.
I need to see footage of this marshmallow toss. This seems like a little bit of a tall tale from Sam Hartman. We need security footage on this to figure out how exactly far this throw was and if that was indeed thrown from the stands. But a good story nonetheless. And I liked. I guess I'll end this video like Sam Hartman sort of ended his own press conference. He wanted to tell us that story and thank folks and get out of there. So that was an interesting way to say goodbye to Sam Hartman in that Notre Dame media room. We'll see.
Neither of us have enough hair to wear the mini man bun that he.
No, I could never pull that off. But Sam Hartman got a big ovation in the senior day ceremony, a big ovation when they showed him on the video board playing Whitney Houston's Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You." It was quite the moment. So Sam Hartman has embraced it. The fans in Notre Dame Stadium were embracing him, and a couple more games. He said 2 more games. I don't know how literal he was.
He said it twice.
He said it twice. So
and we should mention it was the 500th game in Notre Dame Stadium history, and they unveiled we got a little story on our website about their new victory monogram that they're lighting up after every victory from here on out.
Yeah, and it's pretty bright. You can see it pretty clearly if you knew where it's at. It's hanging in the Irish Athletics Center where the football team practices. It's indoor facility, but there's big giant glass windows so you can see it, and it's pretty illuminating after a victory. Or that's the plan for victories moving forward on Notre Dame's campus.
Let's see you say I'm going to end this video a third time, and I'll shut up.
I'm going to edit. I'm going to edit. No, I'm kidding. All right, that'll do it for Postgame Takeaways. Make sure you check out the rest of our postgame coverage on InsideNDSports.com. If you're not a subscriber to the site, you can use the promo code NDYT to sign up for a 30-day free trial. Look for the link to that in the video description below, and we'll be back on Monday night, a new time this week at 8 Eastern because of interviews that we have over on Notre Dame's campus. Here on YouTube Live for Football Never Sleeps. Have a good Sunday.